Conversation that I would necessarily have. I think it is a moment where you need.
It's been obviously fantastic, and she's been a little joy of heaven.
Something shocking just happened. Princess Anne has just given her royal title to Princess Charlotte. This unexpected act has left many royals furious, but none more so than King Charles. His anger isn't just about what this means for the royal family. He also firmly believes the title should have gone to someone else. On top of that, he feels Princess Charlotte is too young for such an honor. So who does King Charles think the title should rightfully belong to? Join us as we dive into all the details. The significance of the Princess Royal title. With the health challenges the royals have been facing lately, it seems like Princess Anne is the only one truly concerned about what the future holds for the royal family. As we all know, she is steadfast in her duties and always puts the monarchy first. But this time, what she believes is best has landed her in hot water, especially with her brother, King Charles. In a move that has left many stunned, Princess Anne has just handed over her royal title to young Princess Charlotte, seemingly without thinking about the consequences. And if you think this was a simple act of goodwill, think again. King Charles is reportedly furious, and tensions are brewing behind palace doors. But to fully grasp why this decision is causing such an uproar, we first have to understand the weight of this title and just how much power it holds. Curious to find out more? Stay tuned. Recent whispers have suggested that Princess Charlotte may one day take on the title of Princess Royal, a prestigious role currently held by Princess Anne, the eldest and only daughter of the late Queen Elizabeth II. But this isn't just any royal title. It is the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a female member of the royal family. Anne has carried this title since 1987, but if Charlotte follows in her great-aunt's footsteps, she will become only the 8th woman in history to hold it since its creation in 1642. And make no mistake, the women who have held this title weren't just ordinary princesses. They were front and center in British and European history, with some facing exile, shipwrecks, and even royal betrayals. Others became queens and empresses, while one was even a guinea pig for one of the earliest vaccinations. The very first Princess Royal was Mary Henrietta Stuart, the eldest daughter of King Charles I. Through her marriage to William II of Orange, she became Princess of Orange, but her life was far from a fairy tale. After her father was executed, she spent much of her youth in exile in the Netherlands. Though she tragically died at just 29, her son would go on to become co-ruler of England, Scotland, and Ireland in 1689. It would take nearly a century before another princess would receive the title. In 1727, Princess Anne, the eldest daughter of King George II, became the second Princess Royal. Anne was no stranger to adversity, as she nearly lost her life to smallpox, but survived after becoming one of the first people in history to be inoculated. She went on to marry William IV, Prince of Orange, and later became the regent of the Netherlands, showing her strength and political influence. Then came Princess Charlotte, the daughter of King George III, who became the third Princess Royal. In 1797, she married Frederick, the Prince of Württemberg, and later became Queen of the region when Napoleon elevated it to a kingdom. But in true royal fashion, drama followed. Her alliance with Napoleon made her husband an enemy of Britain, and her father, George III, stubbornly refused to acknowledge her as Queen of Württemberg. With such a powerful history behind the title, it's no wonder King Charles is enraged by Anne's decision to pass it on to Charlotte. But is this the beginning of a new royal tradition, or the start of a family feud that could shake the monarchy to its core? Keep watching to find out. The fourth Princess Royal was none other than the eldest daughter of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, Princess Victoria. She was the only Princess Royal to briefly hold this title alongside that of the heir to the throne, until her younger brother, the future Edward VII, was born. Affectionately known as Vicky within the family, she was the eldest of Queen Victoria's 9 children and went on to carve out a legacy of her own. Through marriage, she became the German Empress and Queen of Prussia, giving birth to 8 children of her own. But her most infamous descendant, her son Wilhelm II, would go down in history as the last Kaiser of Germany, leading the country through World War I before abdicating in 1918. After Princess Victoria's death in 1901, just 7 months after her mother, it didn't take long for the Princess Royal title to be passed down again. Princess Louise, daughter of King Edward VII, became the 5th Princess Royal in 1905, marking the first direct succession of the title. Though she lived a quiet and reserved life, fate had other plans for her. Through her marriage to Alexander Duff in 1889, she became Duchess of Fife, and her daughters were granted HRH status, making them the first direct descendants of a Princess Royal to be born princesses, as titles traditionally pass through the paternal line. But her quiet life took a dramatic turn in 1911 when she and her family were shipwrecked off the coast of Morocco while en route to Egypt. Just a month later, her husband tragically died from an illness contracted during the ordeal, leaving Louise to inherit the title of Duchess of Fife in her own right. Following Louise's passing in 1931, the title went to Princess Mary in 1935. The only daughter of King George V and Queen Mary, she found herself in the unique position of being the sister of not one but 2 kings, Edward VIII and George VI, due to the infamous abdication crisis. Mary was a force to be reckoned with, taking an active role in both world wars. As a nurse during the First World War, and later as Controller Commandant of the Auxiliary Territorial Service in World War II, she was deeply committed to service. Beyond her wartime efforts, she was a champion for women's empowerment. As honorary president of the Girl Guides, she helped fund Foxlease, the movement's training center, and supported the Land Girls movement. Her legacy even extends to today's royal family. She was close friends with Kate Middleton's ancestors, Olive and Richard Middleton, making her one of the few royals to have had connections to the Princess of Wales lineage. Then came Princess Anne, the current Princess Royal, who was bestowed the title in 1987, 22 years after Princess Mary's death. Often described as the backbone of the Windsors, Anne has been a relentless workhorse for the monarchy, having completed over 20,000 public engagements since her 18th birthday. A lauded equestrian, she was the first member of the royal family to compete in the Olympics, riding for Great Britain in 1976. If there's anything we know about Anne, it's the fact that she is unconventional. Since receiving the title, Anne has broken the royal tradition by refusing titles for her children. She also became the first Princess Royal to divorce in 1992, and even made headlines in 2002 when she became the first senior royal convicted of a crime, fined £500 for failing to control her dog. But perhaps her most legendary moment came in 1974, when she survived a kidnapping attempt with the now iconic response, "Not bloody likely." With such history, it's no wonder Princess Charlotte has some big shoes to fill if she is to become the 8th Princess Royal. And if history is anything to go by, Charlotte's reign as Princess Royal, if it happens, could be one for the books. Princess Charlotte's future. Princess Charlotte may only be 9 years old, but it seems she's already being prepared for a demanding future within the royal family. Reports suggest she has been undergoing a royal crash course, under the guidance of none other than Princess Anne, the current Princess Royal. According to Express, Charlotte's training goes beyond formalities like curtsies and protocol. A royal insider told Woman magazine that Anne has been teaching her the subtle skills of royal engagement, including how to gracefully enter and exit conversations, something that even Princess Catherine had to master over time. Unlike her mother, however, Charlotte has been immersed in royal life since birth, making these lessons a natural part of her upbringing. One of the most intriguing aspects of Charlotte's royal future is whether she will one day inherit the prestigious Princess Royal title. As tradition dictates, this title is reserved for the eldest daughter of the reigning monarch, meaning Charlotte could be in line for it once Prince William becomes king. However, the Princess Royal is a lifelong title, meaning it cannot be reassigned until the current holder, Princess Anne, passes away. But even after Anne passes away, there's really no guarantee that Charlotte will fill in the shoes, as it's really up to Prince William to make the decision. Let's break it down. When Prince William ascends to the throne, his family's roles will shift. Kate Middleton will become queen. Prince George will inch closer to his future as king, and Princess Charlotte will eventually take on the title of Princess Royal. But even after Princess Anne's passing, Charlotte won't automatically receive the title. The decision will rest entirely in her father's hands, making it uncertain when or even if she will be granted this historic designation. But waiting for the title is nothing new, as Charlotte's great-aunt, Princess Anne, had to wait over 2 decades before Queen Elizabeth II officially bestowed it upon her in 1987, despite the position being vacant since 1965. While Charlotte, at just 9 years old, may not yet grasp the immense responsibility that comes with the title, she may not be in a hurry to accept it once she learns of the strict expectations that follow. Under ancient British law, any man who sleeps with the Princess Royal before marriage is guilty of high treason, which is punishable by execution. While it's highly unlikely that such a law would ever be enforced in modern times, it certainly makes Charlotte's royal future all the more interesting. Given this, it wouldn't be surprising if William and Kate delayed the title change until Charlotte was married. But if she does embrace the title, she will join a lineage of remarkable women who have helped shape British history in more ways than one. From Princess Mary's wartime service to Princess Louise's near-fatal shipwreck and Anne's relentless dedication to royal duty, the Princess Royal title has always been synonymous with a sense of duty. Charlotte's story is still being written, but if her training with Princess Anne is any indication, she's already on the path to becoming a formidable force within the royal family. The history of the British monarchy. The history of the British monarchy is not only long, but equally complicated. The British monarchy isn't just a lineage, it's a survival story. Over 1,200 years and 62 kings and queens. The throne has been fought over, stolen, and reclaimed countless times. Civil wars, betrayals, and power struggles have shaped Britain into what it is today. And while modern royals live in palaces and pose for photos, the earliest monarchs were warriors ruling with iron fists, battle strategies, and sometimes sheer luck. But before the Tudors, before the Windsors, there was Alfred. And Alfred wasn't just a king, he was the king who changed everything. Born in 849 AD in Wantage, Alfred the Great wasn't initially in line to rule. He was the youngest of 5 brothers and spent much of his youth being educated, even traveling to Rome twice. But fate had other plans. As his older brothers died one by one, Alfred found himself on the throne and just in time for a fight. The Danes had already seized large parts of England, and by 877 AD, they'd pushed Alfred into hiding in the marshes of Somerset. Most rulers would have given up, but Alfred, he didn't. Luck seemed to shine on him in 878 AD, when he defeated the Danes at the Battle of Edington, forcing their leader, Guthrum, to convert to Christianity. Alfred built fortified towns, strengthened the navy, and introduced legal reforms. His legacy wasn't just on battlefields, but in books. His Anglo-Saxon chronicles documented history as it happened. Then came his son, Edward the Elder, who inherited not just the throne, but his father's war. The Danes still held parts of England, and Edward wasn't about to let that slide. He fought relentlessly, reclaiming southeast England and the Midlands. But his biggest move came after his sister, Ethelflaed of Mercia, died. Instead of letting Mercia fall into chaos, he merged it with his own kingdom of Wessex. For the first time, much of England was under one ruler, but fate wasn't kind to Edward. In 924 AD, during a campaign against the Welsh, he was killed in battle. His final resting place was Winchester. However, Edward's son, Athelstan, had no interest in ruling a fragmented kingdom. He wanted all of England, and he was willing to fight for it. In 937 AD, he led his forces into the Battle of Brunanburh, facing an alliance of Scots, Celts, Danes, and Vikings. It was one of the bloodiest battles in British history, but Athelstan emerged victorious. From that moment on, he claimed the title of King of all Britain. But this wasn't just about ruling. It was about unifying the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms into a single entity, England. But if there's one thing we know, it's that power never sits still for long. After Athelstan's death, His half-brother Edmund took the throne in 939 AD at just 18. Young, but already a proven warrior, he faced the challenge of reclaiming land lost to the Danes after Athelstan's death. He succeeded in restoring control, but his reign was tragically short. In 946 AD, during the Feast of St. Augustine, he was celebrating in his royal hall at Puckelchurch when he was stabbed to death by a robber. Not on the battlefield, not in some grand rebellion, just like that, England lost its king. Unlike his predecessors, Ethelred's reign was riddled with failure. Crowned at just 12 years old, he was never truly in control. The Danes wreaked havoc across England, and Ethelred had no strategy to stop them. By 1013, things had gotten so bad that he fled to Normandy when Sweyn Forkbeard, king of the Danes, invaded England. His nickname, the Unready, didn't mean unprepared. It was a mistranslation of the Old English word unread, meaning poorly advised. Either way, history has not been kind to Ethelred. But to understand how the English throne became such a battleground, we have to go back to where it all started, the Anglo-Saxons. England wasn't always a single kingdom. It was a patchwork of independent territories. Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, and East Anglia, each with its own ruler. The House of Wessex gradually gained dominance, with Alfred the Great declaring himself King of the Angles and Saxons. But it was his grandson, Aethelstan, who finally united all of England by conquering Northumbria. That moment, in 927 AD, is often considered the birth of the English monarchy as we know it. That monarchy, however, was far from stable. The Anglo-Saxon reign ended in 1066, when Harold II was killed at the Battle of Hastings. His death paved the way for William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, to claim the throne. William wasn't just a new king, he was the start of a new era, Norman rule. The Normans reshaped England, but their time on the throne wasn't meant to last. A series of conflicts, political maneuvering, and strategic marriages eventually brought the Plantagenets to power. Among the Plantagenets, one king stood out, Richard I, better known as Richard the Lionheart. A warrior first and a ruler second, Richard spent most of his reign not in England, but on battlefields across Europe and the Middle East. By 16, he was already fighting rebellions in France. By 1189, he was leading the Third Crusade, a brutal campaign to reclaim the Holy Land. Though he became a legendary military commander, Richard barely set foot in England, spending just 6 months of his entire reign in the country. His biggest legacy? Nearly bankrupting England. On his way back from the Crusades, he was captured and ransomed for an astronomical sum. England paid up, but at a steep cost. Richard eventually died from an arrow wound in 1199, leaving no heir behind. Despite the instability, the Plantagenet rule saw England expand its influence in France, achieve military victories, and lay the groundwork for modern governance. The Magna Carta, one of the most significant documents in history, was signed during this period, limiting the king's power for the first time. But no dynasty lasts forever. The Plantagenets fell when Henry of Lancaster returned from exile, overthrew his cousin Richard II, and took the throne. With that, the House of Lancaster began its rule. But the real storm was just beginning. The House of Lancaster and the House of York became locked in a brutal struggle for the throne, a conflict known as the War of the Roses. It was family against family, Red Rose against White Rose, a war that would define England's future. In the end, Edward IV of York emerged victorious, crowning himself king and taking control of England. Yet even that triumph was short-lived. The York dynasty ended with Richard III's dramatic defeat at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. And from that battlefield, a new ruler rose, Henry Tudor. His victory didn't just end the War of the Roses, it marked the beginning of one of the most famous dynasties in history, the Tudors. England was about to change forever. Henry VII wasn't just a king, he was a one-man wrecking ball. His reign saw bloodshed, religious upheaval, and, of course, his infamous 6 wives. If you ever struggle to remember what happened to them, there's a handy rhyme. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. His last wife, Catherine Parr, was the only one lucky enough to outlive him. But Henry's real obsession wasn't marriage, it was securing a male heir. His only legitimate son, Edward VI, took the throne after Henry's death in 1547, but his reign was short-lived. After Edward's passing, the Tudor dynasty continued with Mary I and, finally, Elizabeth I, one of England's greatest rulers. The Tudor era saw peace restored, religious reforms take hold, and the dawn of overseas exploration. However, when Elizabeth died childless in 1603, the Tudor dynasty ended, and the Stuarts took over. With the Stuarts came a new chapter where Scotland and England were ruled as a single entity. James I, Elizabeth's closest relative, took the throne, marking the start of the Stuart period. But his reign and the reigns of his successors were anything but smooth. Tensions between the monarchy and Parliament reached a boiling point, culminating in the English Civil War. Oliver Cromwell, a man with no military experience who somehow became England's most feared general. He led the parliamentarians to victory, helped execute King Charles I in 1649, and declared Britain a republic, the Commonwealth. Cromwell took control as Lord Protector, ruling with an iron grip. But after his death, his son Richard proved to be a disaster. With no real support, he was forced to flee to France, and the monarchy was restored. Charles II returned to England, bringing back all the extravagance that Cromwell had banned. His reign saw the Great Plague of 1665 and the Great Fire of London in 1666, two disasters that shook the nation. Despite being popular, Charles left no legitimate heir, which meant more instability. The Stuart line eventually ended with Queen Anne, who had no surviving children, paving the way for a new dynasty, the House of Hanover. The Hanoverians were German, but they ruled Britain for over a century, overseeing some of the biggest changes in history. Britain lost the American colonies, the Industrial Revolution began, and the United Kingdom was officially formed. Queen Victoria's reign was the pinnacle of British power, as the empire reached its height. Victoria's marriage to Prince Albert brought a new family name, Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, but that didn't last. When anti-German sentiment ran high during World War I, King George V rebranded the family as the House of Windsor, a name that still stands today. Fast forward to the modern era, the Windsor dynasty has witnessed two world wars, the abdication of a king and the creation of the NHS. Queen Elizabeth II became the longest-reigning monarch in British history, sitting on the throne for an astonishing 70 years. When she passed in 2022, her son, Charles III, took over, continuing a legacy that stretches back over 1,000 years. Do you think Princess Charlotte will make an excellent Princess Royal, or do you think otherwise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.